Welcome you all to our May 10th special commissioners meeting.
This conference will now be recorded.
All times on this agenda are approximate. Consideration of items may require more or less time than is scheduled. Items on the agenda may be taken out of order. The public body may combine two or more agenda items for consideration. And the public body may remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item on the agenda at any time. Public comment is designated for discussion only. The public has the opportunity to address the commission on any matter not appearing on the agenda. However, no action may be taken on any matter raised until that matter itself has been specifically included on the agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Additionally, public comment may be heard on any item listed on the agenda. Persons are invited to submit comments in writing and or attend or make comments on any agenda item at the Lander County Commissioners Board meeting. All public comment may be limited to 3 minutes per person at the discretion of the commission. Please note that the public body may interrupt the open meeting and exclude the public for the purpose of having an attorney-client discussion of potential and existing litigation, which is pursuant to NRS 241-015 3B2. So I'll call the meeting to order. Mike, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to have a moment of silence, but I'd like to recognize Sandy Smith, who passed away this last Saturday. Sandy was a 25-year county employee and community member. She'll be greatly missed, so I just wanted to recognize her. Okay, Lander County Commissioners may break for lunch from 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Commissioners' reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended. Patsy?
Thank you. Good morning. I do have a couple things to share with you. We did have a NACO meeting on the 28th of April. And a couple things that we did do. Of course, we've been following the bills and everything, and I think, Bert, you're sitting in on that legislative telephone with the bills, and I thought, okay. One that we did do, we did a resolution in support of Historic Roots Preservation Act, which recognizes and honors county authority over the historic roads. So we did a resolution on that. And then we were looking at one of the BLM proposed rules that they're coming up with, which is for our conservation and landscape health. And just a couple things I'll read on you because it's a very long letter, but we're very concerned about the definition of conservation leases as their eligible use on public lands and the proposition to place the leases. So what we did is we wrote a letter with our concerns and such. It said, their emphasis on increasing the designation of new areas of critical environmental is a concern within the new rule because while the conservation leases may seem like a positive step towards protecting our environment, we believe that this seismic shift in public land management protocols may have some very harmful and unintended consequences, especially when it's considered in the combination of other resource management plan amendments that they currently have underway in Nevada and across the West, which is namely this Greater Sage-Grouse Resource Plan and the grazing regulation amendments and the updates to the Western Solar Plan. So we did send a letter to the BLM with our concerns on that. And then I had an airport board meeting on Monday, and I think we're finally going to finish up our sign on 722. When you come into the airport, we haven't had just a tiny little sign. We've been working on a sign for a long time, and it looks like we probably will have it in within the next month. It's up to our road and bridge right now to actually put in our posts and stuff, and they've been really busy, but we're looking at that. Also, David is here, of course, from JUB, and we had information on the bipartisan infrastructure law and the funding on that, and then an update on our GPS emergency approach, and that's both something he will cover with his agenda too. So that would be it. Thank you.
Kathy? Okay, Jar? No. Mike? Okay. All right, so we'll move into staff reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended.
Good morning, Commission. First, I would like to start out with some recognition. I think that not very many people put in the years that this man has put in, and they certainly don't do it with the integrity that he's done it. I've sat in many meetings where he's left not being the good guy, but he's done what's been right and by the book, and been great to this community. And hopefully, we can get him back. I say that loudly, and hopefully I'll repeat it a few times. But Mr. John Williams, if you don't mind, you come up here. He has 39 years of service on the Planning Commission, and he's been the leader there and kind of the cornerstone. And if we can get Colt and our building department up here, I'd like to get a picture with you guys. Anybody that's on the planning, Monty, come on up. I think that there's no real words you can put into what this guy's done. Like I said, a lot of these projects that come before the Planning Commission are things that are near and dear to people's hearts, and when they get told no, somebody's a bad guy. And John has been the guy sitting up there chewing on his toothpick, looking right down the pipe, going, you know what, this is what the rules say, and this is what we're following. And you may not like me for it, but that's what it is. And he has all my respect, and anything that we can do to get him back, I'd be happy to have you back. But for now, we'll give you the 39. Hopefully we can give you one that says 40 and 42 and 45. So,
Had a lot of good help.
Truly appreciate it.
Congratulations,
If you don't mind,
John.
stand up here. I'll get a picture of all you guys.
Are you gonna get in it?
Oh, I guess I can stand in it. Shelby, if you don't mind.
Yeah, don't be camera shy. Okay, ready? Show off your plaque, John. Maybe Don't be shy. Awesome.
I'm not sure why all the commissioners are hiding.
John, truly appreciate it.
I know.
So on with my update. That's kind of a shame to see that happening, but at the same time I understand. So we did enter into an agreement with Rail Pros this last week, and Rail Pros is going to join up with Tom Erickson and Aaron Martinez and myself to hopefully further this project down the line. They work hand in hand with a lot of the big railroad companies, and so we are moving at a snail's pace, but we're moving on our rail yard project. Then the Robertson Mine Tour is the 23rd. I think I sent an email to all of you. We want to meet on the Hilltop Canyon Road turnoff. If anybody wants to show up in their own vehicle, or you can meet me here at about 8:30. We're going to meet there at 10 to go tour that mine. So any of you commissioners that can make it, I know that Miss Kathy is going to make it. So the more the merrier. It's just going to be an overview of what's happening out there. And everything else that I have is on the agenda. So
All right, thanks, Bert. We'll move into public comment for non-agenda items only. Is there public comment? Okay, we'll move into our consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the Board of County Commissioners with one action, without extensive discussion. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed, and acted upon separately during this meeting. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal charge. 1, approval of May 10th, 2023 special agenda notice. 2, approval of March 23rd, 2023 meeting minutes. 3, approval of April 13th, 2023 meeting minutes. 4, approval of April 27th, 2023 meeting minutes. And 5, approval of payroll change requests.
I didn't receive any minutes. Did anybody get minutes? Okay. I will make a motion. We approve number 1, the special agenda notice. And number 5, the payroll change request.
Okay,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move into item 1, Commissioners. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the payment of bills. We need to pull two checks for Patsy, which are 219-610, 219-472. 3 for myself, which is 219-477, 219-613, and 219-554. And 2 for Kathy, which are 219-452, 219-529.
I make a motion that we approve the balance of the checks minus the ones you just pulled out.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So then I'll make a motion that we approve check numbers 219-610 and 219-472 for Patsy.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And I abstain. Those are travel expenses. Thank you. I make a motion we approve check number 219529 and 219452 for the Battle Mountain Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, I'll second the motion. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I abstain because they're to my employer.
Okay.
And I make a motion we approve check number 219477, 219554, and 219613 for Point S.
I'll second.
Because we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and I abstain. They're made to my employer. Okay, so 2, we're gonna table. 3, we'll go to, for discussion and possible action to set date and time for a commission meeting to take place in Austin. So what do we have coming up for Austin that we can get on an agenda and?
Oh, we can do June, we can do July, we could do August. I checked with the court, and actually, our district attorney has already pulled those Thursdays for the court, because he doesn't want to go down there for court or be on Zoom for court because of us. So it's open with any time that we prefer.
Is there any preferred dates? Anybody have any suggested dates?
I'll be gone for the most part of June.
Which, you'll be gone for most of June? How about the 22nd of June? Will you be gone for that?
We'll be back by then.
22nd of June?
22nd of June? Or July? You'll be here in July too? You know, we're probably gonna be discussing a lot on the Austin buildings and stuff coming up. So, maybe we should do it earlier. What do you think?
I think as long as it's prior to the July 1 budget year is probably better.
How about the 8th of June then? Let's do it early and talk about the things in Austin with the Austin folks.
Are you good for the 8th of June?
I won't be here.
You won't be here?
Until after the 17th.
I probably won't be here either.
You won't be here the 8th of June?
Not that weekend, or that Thursday.
In Colorado.
How about the 22nd? 22nd of June?
Okay.
Okay, so June 22nd?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we have our agenda for June 22nd to be, commission meeting to be held in Austin.
Okay. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Would
Okay.
you like that to be held at the regular time of 9, or would you like that bumped to 10?
Let's,
10 works easier, I think, for everybody coming down to set up and everything.
Perfect.
So we'll go at 10 o'clock?
okay, we'll move into item 4. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the interlocal contract between public agencies, a contract between the state of Nevada acting by and through its Department of Motor Vehicles. Morning, Lexi. Floor is yours.
I'm just here for approval.
Okay.
Do you wanna keep it?
Push the little button.
Alexis Ryva for the record.
There aren't any changes or anything in
No.
it, though. Who actually signs this? Do
From in the past, it's been a commissioner, me, Molly.
Okay.
And then it gets sent to the
I just wasn't
state.
sure they didn't have any names or anything, so, that's fine.
It was usually the chair.
I'll make a motion, we approve the interlocal contract between public agencies, which is between the state of Nevada, acting by and through the Department of Motor Vehicles, and to be signed by our chair.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
There
you.
are, Alexis. We'll move into 5. Update from David Myers with Job Engineering, or engineers regarding current projects and endeavors at the Austin Airport and Battle Mountain Airport. Morning, David.
Morning. My first 2 grabs it doesn't work. Morning, Commission. David Meyer, JUB Engineers for the record. I just wanted a chance to talk about what we've got going on at your airports. Times are pretty busy, and busy's good, so thought we'd pass them along. We'll start with the Austin Airport. We are continuing to try to push forward with our apron project there that was designed last year, just so everyone remembers. Upside down. It's the old section of the apron and adjoining taxiway B, and a small expanse over here. The point of that expansion is to allow seat aircraft to better maneuver around here. That area has been used traditionally by ag sprayers doing seating, as well as the BLM with their seaplanes. So improving that in conjunction with our existing paving project, pretty cost-effective way to make that space more usable. So we designed that project last year. Our intention was to build it this year. We got a call in September from the FAA saying, we don't think we're gonna have enough money, we're gonna have to bump you a year. The FAA released a notice of funding opportunity in December. We put in an application for that. That's why I was here at the end of January. The FAA has since put out another notice of funding opportunity for approximately $1.5 billion in AIP discretionary funding. So this is our traditional funding mechanism, the Airport Improvement Program. This notice of funding opportunity hit the streets April 17th. They want hard bid numbers by July 14th. So not only are we on track for that, that's going to significantly limit the number of other competing projects. So, nothing's done till the checks are signed, but this seems like a good funding opportunity to chase. So we have been in contact with the FAA. They have given us our blessing to bid. The advertisement for the project actually hit the papers today, both at the Battle Mountain Bugle and the Reno Gazette Journal. And of course, all those go through the NV posting online public notice system. So plan is for that to, for us to do a pre-bid meeting at the airport on Tuesday, May 23rd at 2 p.m. I don't know why I didn't write that down. So I'll be in attendance on that. Hopefully we'll get some good bites. We've talked to a few contractors who typically do or try to get more airport work, and it's been a pretty light year so far. So hopefully people are hungry. So, and the plan is to open those bids on June 8th at 4 p.m. And then I will be back at the commission on June 22nd in Austin to get those bids approved and move forward with the funding. The project's budgeted. As I said, we had always anticipated it to build this year, so we're good on that end. So the project, I guess I did do a couple quick facts. It's about 8,000 square yards of pavement rehabilitation. We're just going to remove the pavement, touch up the base, and then repave. And then another 2,000 square yards of that little expansion. So 6 weeks of construction. That pavement was installed in 1999. So we are at the end of the 20-year useful life. So it's still in good condition. It's the pavement that needs the most love right now out there at that airport. So especially that taxiway. So that's all I've got on the apron project for now. Any questions? Did I hit all the high points?
Okay.
We're also working on a special approach into runway 19, as Patsy mentioned. The intention of this approach is to be utilized by medevac, firefighting, or other emergency needs in inclement weather. This approach was identified as a major need back in the 2017 master plan. We've been working on it ever since. It's been a process. We started with a request for a public approach. Ultimately, the FAA came back and said that it wasn't feasible or it wasn't of value to the National Airway System, the NAS. Primarily, the issue is the MOAs in the area above, or the airspace above the airport, the military operations areas from the Fallon Naval Air Station. There's also some limited visibility from NAS Fallon to the airspace directly over the airport due to the terrain. So we went back to the drawing board. They said, why don't you look at a special approach? We started that process. We actually got under a reimbursable agreement with the FAA in early 2022. February of 2022. Lakin was huge, as always, in getting that done. The approach is actually in design. I've spoke with the FAA. Sylvan Drakes is the airspace person doing the design. I also had a chance to talk with Bob Morton, who's the designer from the NAS Fallon side. Both really great folks and really understand that the purpose of this is to try to make the airport available in an emergency situation in inclement weather to try to save lives and help support that community down in Austin and the Reese River Valley. So the FAA anticipates the approach in place around October of 2024. So as I said, these things are never fast, but the train is moving slowly but surely. We're making progress, and so we're just going to continue to keep bulldogging that until we have a way for the medevac to get in during low-hanging fog, because that fog will hang in that valley pretty bad. So that's all I have for that.
All right, any questions? Any questions from the public?
Anything?
Okay, well, thank you, David. We'll move into item 6.
So I do have one for Battle Mountain. Sorry,
Oh,
real quick.
okay.
I'll make this one quick. We are moving forward with and I'm sorry, the FAA loves their acronyms, the replacement of the runway 4 VASI and the runway 22 PAPIs, which are the box lights. I actually think I brought one. The box lights off to the side of the main runway. Both of them are on the nominally east side. So runway 4, and it's these two sets of 2 boxes. These are currently FAA owned. They were put in the 70s. They still work, but electronics from the 70s have a shelf life. And then here are the PAPIs at the 22 end. These were put in 2006. They're county owned. So the idea would be to replace both systems with new county owned 4-box PAPIs so that they match. They're on the same maintenance cycles. Our hope is that we can do LEDs, which tend to take less power, require less maintenance. The bulbs don't burn out because they don't generate heat. They have 3-year warranties instead of the traditional one. We just have to make sure that they'll fit within our application. In addition to replacing those existing visual aids, we're going to install new runway end lights, which are the flashing lights you see at the end of the runways to help identify the runway ends during nighttime operations. Big safety thing, especially on the 22 end that hugs the interstate. We want to make sure that aircraft that are coming in at night can identify what's a runway end and what's a bunch of billboards. So these are angled up 10 degrees and out. We are understanding that there is residential around the airport, especially to the south. We install these in residential or in airports that are within city limits all the time and haven't heard any issues. So if there are issues with the flashing lights, they can be baffled, but we don't anticipate any issues at this time.
So what are we looking at for a time frame on the PAPIs and the runway lights?
So the design is being completed this year with construction to be completed next year. So right now we're probably anticipating October of 2024 for this work to be completed, just so they can get out to the runway without bothering the fire season. So we have been in contact with everybody from the FAA as part of this project. In fact, we did a little presentation at the Nevada Aviation Association conference with FAA's air traffic operations folks, using Battle Mountain as a case study. So that was a nice little opportunity to talk about the airport. So we've also been in contact with their flight procedures. When we complete this project, we'll have to have the FAA fly the PAPIs and make sure that they're sighted correctly before they can be brought in and turned on full time and let loose. So like I said, we're starting those communications now 18 months out with the hope that when we're ready to go, they're overhead. So the other component to this is just the beacon in the tower. We want to remove that existing tower. Nobody's brave enough to climb it anymore now that Carla Harless isn't out there. I guess she always did. So it's an old style. It's hard to maintain. It's hard to get up to. The new technology now is a tip-down pole where you can just crank it, have it come down, replace the beacon bulb, and put it right back up. So that's not included in this design due to some additional cultural resources investigations that the FAA wanted to see done, but we'll incorporate it as part of the next grant and get it all bid and completed together. That's our plan at this time.
Okay, any questions? Public, any questions? All right, we'll move into 6. For discussion and possible action, to consider potential uses for FAA bill bipartisan infrastructure law funding at the Austin Airport and Battle Mountain Airport. Both Austin and Battle Mountain airports will receive approximately $110,000 a year from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26.
Yeah, so David Meyer, JEB Engineers for the record again. We just wanted to bring this out to the commission and kind of talk through what this bill money looks like. It's a little different from the AIP funds that we traditionally use. Projects that utilize the bill funding do still have to be AIP eligible. However, it follows what the FAA calls their passenger fee charge requirements. Typically, PFCs are at commercial service airports. That's the money that they actually generate from passengers and onboardings and everything like that. And the real big difference between PFC and AIP funds is the PFCs can be used for revenue generating projects a lot easier. So in a traditional AIP project, to do a revenue generating project, you have to have all of your capital needs, your pavements, your lights, basically all your maintenance projects have to be completed. You have to have no identifiable capital needs. And then once you utilize FAA funds for revenue generating projects, then you are put on a hold for 3 years from receiving AIP discretionary money. You still get your $150,000 a year non-primary entitlements, but you can't compete for discretionary for 3 years. So it becomes a major burden to try to use AIP funds for revenue generating projects, where this bipartisan infrastructure law money does not have the same penalties. The FAA doesn't like to call them penalties, but they're penalties. Doesn't have the same penalties for using your money for revenue generating projects. So revenue generating projects are traditionally hangars, fuel farms, parking areas that are paid parking areas, things like that. So what this money is, so as I said, the money came as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. That law was rolled out a little quickly in early 2022. The powers to be might have wanted to see that timing of that hit as early as possible. And so we've kind of been waiting for more information to come along. We've heard a lot of things through the grapevine, but we finally started to get some actual official direction from the FAA regarding the ability to use this for revenue generating projects, which is the real game changer here. So again, it's 5 years worth of funding. However, each year's funding expires after 4 years. Don't know why. That was the FAA's decision. That's how our non-primary entitlements are as well. They expire after 4 years. So I'm sure that was what they were trying to emulate. So the funding is based upon the NIPIAS role, which is National Plan for the Integrated Airways Airport Systems. Both Battle Mountain and Austin are considered basic airports in the NIPIAS. So they receive nominally $110,000 a year. Those do get adjusted slightly. They're recalculated based upon how many airports are at certain roles and whose airports change. So we actually went from $110,000 in fiscal year 22 to $113,000 in fiscal year 23. So it is a little bit of a moving target, but not enough to really significantly change our approach. So that's kind of the background on the BIL money, what we're getting, kind of what we see, the value in it compared to traditional AIP funds. These projects also don't require a benefit cost analysis for revenue generating projects. They don't require a lot of the hoops that an AIP project would. So it's really good money to be used for these kind of priorities. So with that background, I guess we'll start with Austin. So as Patsy mentioned, we talked in the Airport Advisory Board meeting on Monday about some potential uses. Right now there are available hangars at the airport, assuming anyone ever wants to sell. There's none that are on the market, but there are ones that are not currently in use. So our initial plan was to try to utilize this money to attack some of the other priorities around the airport while we're doing the planned runway project there in 2026. So what that looks like is we have some PAPIs we need to relocate. We have a vault over here that's always sat in a hole that we would like to move to a more logical place a little farther away from the access road. We have an aged beacon and tower that need to be relocated with the lighting vault. We have an access taxiway here, an entrance taxiway into the runway that's at a non-standard angle. That one would probably compete well for discretionary, but what we've heard from the FAA is this is your money to use, but if you put a little skin in the game to some of your development projects, you might have an easier time finding more money. So that was our initial conversation about Austin. However, when we talked on Monday, one of the board members did ask that we look into the potential of, actually a couple of them, into the potential to utilize them for T hangars. So I admittedly don't know a ton about T hangars. I need to do a little bit of my own research into those. I know that we don't see a lot of T hangars going up anymore. That was kind of a symbol of a bygone era, but they are more efficient in terms of space utilization because you don't have a big box hangar that you're trying to fit a T-shaped aircraft into. So the timeline on this, sorry to take just a step back. So the fiscal year 2022 money doesn't expire until October 1st of 2026. So we have some time to try to talk through what we want to utilize these funds for. But now that we finally have information about it, that it has that's been substantiated, we wanted to come forward first with the commission and get your feel for how to utilize those funds. So I'm sure there'll be more discussions to follow on Austin, and I owe the board a little more research into these T hangars and what the viability of that is. I did look through the AIP handbook and didn't see anything specifically precluding the use of constructing T hangars. I just know that from a developer standpoint, the industry has moved towards box hangars. So so those are kind of where we're at on Austin. I'll pause if anyone has any.
David, could we, the BIL funding, can we use that for repairs? If it follows their revenue project, for example, repairs of our fuel pumps, something like that, because it seems like we're always having trouble with, like, the credit card machine or something.
Right.
And as long as it does the project, can we do a repair?
So the BIL money in particular, specifically has in their Q&A, and of course it's not one of the ones I included in your backup, but I will make sure to get it to you. It specifically asks about utilizing those funds for repair of existing facilities, and it states that the purpose or intent of the bipartisan infrastructure law as a whole is to generate new infrastructure that, benefits the infrastructure within our country. So it specifically states it's not supposed to be used to upkeep existing facilities. So, unfortunately, that's pretty black and white in their directives. So, because the same question did come up in Battle Mountain, and I'll touch on that. So right now our plan is to kick the tires on the T-hanger option, maybe get a list of ideas and concerns and workshop it a little bit within the board before we make a final decision, which again, we're not looking to do for a couple more years. Before we make a final decision, we'll reapproach the board and see what your opinions are.
Because we can save the funds up and actually use 3 years of funds all at one time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, and that's kind of our intention, $110,000, any money is great money, but $110,000 in the public works sector, especially in the federal public works sector, doesn't go super far. So we've got to kind of pull it together and see what we can do to maximize it. So for Battle Mountain, obviously when the information started coming out about revenue generating projects, or the potential to use this funding for revenue generating projects, one of the first ideas that came to mind around here was to provide more hangar space at the airport. So the county hangars are all full. I know that took a little longer than maybe some people wanted, but we're there now, and beyond just the existing hangars, which are, singular units for smaller aircraft, there is a big need at the airport, or a big desire at least, for larger hangars. So there's one hangar on the airfield. Sure, everyone knows about it. That's not a good one. It's the big box hangar right here that feeds directly onto the apron. I believe it's 60 by 60. I'm not positive who owns it right now, but I can tell you there's always interest in that hangar, because a large 60 by 60 hangar with a big door can fit just about anything that comes through Battle Mountain, with the exception of the heavy air tankers. So one of the early ideas that we talked about was to utilize this funding for a similar large hangar. We've looked at a couple potential sites. These are just ones I've rattled off my head based upon what's on the airport layout plan and the master plan. So the existing county hangars are over here. When we built those hangars, we actually built a pad for a third building. It was just never constructed. The funds just weren't there. So that pad's fairly ready to go. It does need some touch up. But the limiting factor up here is that this taxiway is only 25 feet wide. It does have the wingspan clearance for a larger taxi lane, but based upon the intended use of that area per the master plan, that is designated as a taxiway designated group 1B, which is the 25-foot width. So the other two options, and I think the primary option we're considering now if we do move forward with a large single unit hangar, would be to just build it directly north of the existing big box hangar. So this taxi lane is 35 feet wide. It's built for bigger aircraft, so it's built for, let's see, what do I got here? Like a King Air, some of the bigger dual jet, or small jets, but some of the jets or turboprop planes could utilize that space. And then it would be a better fit for the seats, the single engine air tankers that are used by the BLM. They have expressed some interest in possibly staging 1 or 2 seats through the winter, so that they don't have to keep flying them out and flying them back. That would be a good fallback plan for that use if that hangar was available, because a lot of people don't fly in the winter. So having a reason to have an aircraft in there or fallback for aircraft usage would be a pretty good way to utilize that. So the third spot, I guess, just to close the loop, is over here by Airport Road on the fence. The master plan shows that as a potential commercial development if there was ever a need for a fixed base operator with a hangar or something like that. That's really what the intended use of that is, but it is another option. So that's about the extent that we've really put any thought into this. You know, the 5-year plan, which I included for Battle Mountain, is a lot cleaner. We're going to spend this year designing the runway pappies and reels. We're going to build them next year. The following year, we're going to design the runway pavement surface because it's starting to show some failure points, and then reconstruct that. Then we'll move into a master plan and then a seal coat. So there just wasn't the opportunities like there were in Austin to kind of leverage these funds in addition to a development project to tackle, you know, lower priority needs. In reality, the airport's pretty cleaned up and we're just chasing pavements now. So again, $440,000 isn't going to make a huge dent in pavements in an airport that big, but again, you know, we definitely wanted to bring this forward to the commission and to the public and take any input. So
Thank you, David. Any questions? Public, any questions? Okay. Need any action on it?
I think the action will come in the next one.
Okay.
Or I guess unless you have any particular direction, that's really the only reason I put possible action was if you wanted any formal direction.
I say just carry on and we'll address it further down the road.
Perfect. Before I go, I talked to Bert. I said, I always like getting up here and, really patting the county on the back for all the great work you guys do at your airports. Bert's very quick to try to push compliments back on other people, but I made a list, and this is not an inclusive list of everyone that helps me out through my day-to-day activities. I mean, that list is Bert, Carly, Lakin, Donnie, and Carrie with Public Works, Michelle, the Austin board, and Commissioner Waits on that board, Rick Harden and his staff down in Austin, Liz, D.A. Schaefer, Molly in the clerk's office. I mean, everybody in this county's been so great to work with. So I just really want the community to know you guys got some pretty great people here. So we say teamwork makes the dream work. So
Thank you, David.
thank you all.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate it, David.
Okay, we're
Most of it falls on
gonna
you.
move up an item, guys. We're gonna jump to item 10. Fiscal officer for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the following general fund grant requests for the fiscal year 23-24 final budget. A, Lander County Conservation District for $20,000, and B, Lander County Conservation District for $100,000.
Blake and Sullivan for the record. These were the two that were tabled at the budget workshop. And so this is just back on here for approval before we do the final budget.
Okay?
And Commissioner, I do believe that I'm not sure if our DA would like to or not, but or we can do it public, however you'd like.
We can probably do, let me just put something on there. We can do things publicly. There's, unless we're gonna get into stuff that then might head towards litigation. I don't think it will head towards litigation. Let me just say, when a process is screwed up, that doesn't mean the project is screwed up, and it doesn't mean you don't go ahead with the project. And there's been some concern about how this got recommended, but it is only a recommendation. The recommendation could have come from somebody in the public, for that matter. And we wouldn't be looking at it separately. So on that basis, unless you've got a problem with the project itself, which I haven't heard of one, I'd suggest you just go forward with it as you would anything else, regardless of whether the process is screwed up.
Well, I would suggest that we have a litigation meeting. We have Hardy on the phone.
Yeah, I
Discuss
believe
with
you
us.
wanted to.
Okay,
make
that would be fine
suggestions.
then.
And just a quick one, just to make sure that we're
Sure,
that we're
Not a
okay.
problem.
Okay. So we're gonna break for a litigation meeting. So we'll jump back into, item 10, which I'll read back into the record. For discussion of possible action to approve, disapprove the following general fund grant request for fiscal year 23-24 final budget. A, Lander County Conservation District in the amount of $20,000, and B, Lander County Conservation District in the amount of $100,000.
A motion to approve the following general fund requests for fiscal year 23-24, Lander County Conservation District in the amount of $20,000 on line item A. Can I make them both together?
Yeah.
And I'd also like to request that we approve the Lander County Conservation District for $100,000 in line item B.
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed.
Megan, while you're here, just a qualification here, the 20,000 is for the noxious weeds, right?
For the what?
The noxious weeds?
Yes.
Right. On the 100,000, I think they said they were committed for the balance of what they had in this year yet, but they were going to spend anything, because they had something left over.
No, that was for FY 22 and 23. It didn't have anything to do with 24's grant.
No, I'm asking. No, I understand that. So what they have for this year, because I was looking at the amount, this year is committed funds though, right? Because they had some left over, but they said it was committed.
Yeah, they're supposed to be using it
Yeah.
before the end of the
Okay.
year. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move into, I think we'll jump to another item
You
here,
want to
guys.
take a break?
Yeah, sure, we'll take a 10-minute break. To,
This conference will now be recorded.
okay, we're gonna jump to item 15. There's some people here for that item that need to get out of here. So, for discussion of possible action to modify the current budget of $6,851,250 for the new fire station to include police training and living quarters. Okay, so I know we discussed it, and then there were some ideas with the other things we were looking at, and we had discussed about incorporating them into the build of the fire department, and we had asked our county engineer to maybe draw up some plans or give us some ideas of what it would look like to do some of those things, so that's where we're at.
Hi, Keith Piazza, Treasurer for the Battle Mountain Volunteer Fire Department.
Hi, Keith.
Hi. At our last meeting, some of the members expressed an interest in the new firehouse, and we have determined we want to put together a committee, so we'll have that going here forward in the future, so we can discuss with the county and they can decide, what needs we perceive that we have, and discuss that with you.
Okay.
So I don't have any decisions right now. Like I say, the committee will decide on those, and we'll come forward with that later.
Okay, and then I know there was some concern about the actual building space, and we have some pictures in here of where it would look like the new facility may go. Want to take it over there, Aaron?
You bet. Aaron Martinez for the record. So the commission kind of asked for kind of a plethora of options, and I haven't met you yet before, so nice to meet you. I was working with your predecessor a little bit prior to this, so
Well, I'm the treasurer. You probably worked with Rick Harless.
yes.
He was our previous chief.
Yeah. So nice to meet
Jimmy's
you.
our chief now.
Gotcha. So again, we kind of relayed out some things that were already laid out for you previously. And so there's quite a bit here, and I'll briefly go over them, and then you can tell me if you have any questions. So again, one of the options is to retrofit the existing facility. I think previous discussion kind of outlined that facility has some serious issues, and so it may not be in Lander County's absolute best interest to retrofit it, but if you wanted to, we started kind of breaking down kind of that retrofit cost for the county, so you can kind of see under that option, you have a cost estimate attached to that. We have a storage bay retrofit component of about 5,000 square feet, and then the commercial office space, or the remaining portion of the facility, is about 7,000 square feet. So retrofit option, just building alone, roughly about $2 million. So as I go through these estimates, please keep in mind this does not include any site work and it does not include any underground utilities, paving, ADA access, landscaping, those types of things. These are strictly structural numbers. And secondly, we typically have anywhere from a 10 to 25% contingency fund on projects. This project does not have a design, so I'd suggest any budget allocation that you look at a 25% contingency on top of that. Second option is again that existing facility to do a demo and full reconstruction. So again, that cost estimate breaks down that demolition of that facility of about $536,000 to demo. That includes a pretty significant amount of off-haul to the landfill. And then if we came in under that same footprint and put in a facility, I broke out those costs for you. Kind of the way you can see this here is you have three types of structures. So the county management wanted to ensure that you folks have all the tools in your toolbox to make a good decision. And so what we tried to do is gear these projects to give you a plethora of options. So what you're seeing here is three different structural types. We have CMU, which is concrete masonry units, which is what this building here is made of at the courthouse. We have a steel structure and a timbered structure. I tried to give you those costs per square foot based on that particular square footage to kind of give you an idea of those different structural types. Outside of the existing facility, if the committee and the county commission feel appropriate, you could also look at a potential site here just north of the sheriff's station. Under that site, we started doing a little more of a preliminary breakdown. This is actually designed to be a shared access road with potentially some new development going further north of us, which is a potential travel center. And so we're looking at trying to leverage costs and share costs with that development in order to create a new fire access into the potential new fire station. So some of those are some inner workings happening behind the scenes. As an option one, the commission from the last meeting said, hey, can we look at just doing storage bays? Let's just look at, can we store the facilities and not go all out in terms of expenses? So we've broken out in terms of option one would just strictly be storage bays. Kind of the previous request that come through is one of those bays be a complete drive-through, which in this model here is the far left-hand side. That's a complete drive-through where you come in from the backside, drive through the whole facility. The other 4 bays are a backup entrance storage unit. Again, the cost estimate breaks down under that model. It costs per square foot for whatever type of structure you'd like, whether it's steel, CMU, or timber. And again, that current storage bay only is about 6,300 square feet. The second option is to try to model the current architecture of the existing courthouse and sheriff's station. And so with that, we broke down, again, you can do the storage bays only like you're seeing here with none of the crew quarters component, or you can add the crew quarters component with this architectural style as well. Below this model, you can see the actual footprint of that facility. So again, we have the 4 storage bays with the complete drive-through. On the bottom story, it's got a laundromat, kind of what we're calling an electrical and utility rooms and fire riser rooms. And then outside of that, it's got kitchen and dining turnout gear, and obviously bathrooms, a few offices down there, and a large reception area. Also within that bottom floor, we're calling it a training room, but it's really an additional conference room and training component for that building. On the second floor, you can kind of see the second portion of the facility. The second story, if you will, is outside of the garage bays. Those are a full height structure. So behind those garage bays, you have your bunk area with showers, turnout areas, men and women's bathrooms, a living room, laundry room, and also a little fitness area. So again, these are just ideas, throwing it out there. Whatever you folks would like in there is obviously up to you, but we wanted to kind of start that conversation so you can actually see what your options were. Again, under that project type, a 2-story facility. Bear with me, this computer's having a little issue. That's 17,800 squares, again, just for the facility. And that's a 2-story structure. Kind of going into option 3, which was kind of the original request from the VFD and the sheriff's office, was more of this approach here. It's got a kind of what we call a storefront commercial grade face to it. where it's got that same style on the storage bays like I had talked previously. But to the right of that is kind of a storefront approach to a major lobby area where they'd like to broadcast their existing fire truck inside the building. Was a piece of history that they'd like to have people maybe even stop in and see, and kind of use that lobby room as a history room for Lander County and its fire district. Looking at that facility from the side, you can see that again, that commercial storefront component tying into the facility, which is a 2-story structure, again, outside of the storage bays. Some more renderings for you to kind of take a look at some options. These are some renderings of the actual storage bays themselves, the conference/training room, and then if you wanted a potential courtyard. And what we're trying to illustrate there is, you know, right now, these projects are kind of piecemeal, where we have the county building, then we, you know, first the sheriff's office, now the county building, and you know, the continuity between those structures can typically be well suited with landscaping and different improvements to make those projects look interconnected and like a complex. And so that's what I'm trying to illustrate here for the commission and committee to consider, so that we can make these units look cohesive and not, again, like a piecemeal structure by structure component. Again, under that option 3, you can see the floor plan that I've illustrated previously from the different architectural style. Under this, again, the same thing. The bottom floor has a training room, kitchen, dining, turnout areas, locker rooms, bathrooms, and things like that. And then on the second story, again, you have sleeping quarters if that's what the commission and committee would like to perform. Again, we have a cost estimate for that. This particular style is 16,274 squares. Again, we can modify that to whatever your liking would be. Lastly, on our future potential training options, we were trying to look at, you know, one, dual usage all the time. We're trying to leverage certain projects to create multiple usage out of them. But in this case here, I don't know if these facilities are more conducive on this side or maybe somewhere else, but some of the other items that come up were a shooting facility. And so we kind of threw out some ideas as to what that would be. It would be a concrete structure to ensure any misfires would not be discharged outside the facility. So that was one of the training facilities. Inside the existing building design, we can look at an augmented reality or virtual reality training room. I know that that was part of the sheriff's request, and I think that there's some really neat aspects to that, and it can be done rather cheaply with some of the modern technology. So we can gear the facility to be kind of more advanced in that regard, and maybe eliminate the shooting range if budget doesn't allow. The other portion of the offsite training may be at the landfill or the sewer treatment facility or somewhere downwind of Battle Mountain would be a burning tower for the VFD. So I know that was quite a bit pretty quick, but that is it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
So a lot of information there. Does anybody, commissioners, any questions? Sheriff's Department, Fire Department, public?
Yeah.
Amy Nelson, and I just want you to consider, it's a little bit early into this, but as you know, the archery club, Battle Mountain Archery Club's been in contact with the county for the last year, maybe year and a half, and the club is growing. It's becoming pretty viable. We just had a tournament out at Willow Creek that brought in people from several different counties, and so one of the enhanced use possibilities would be, one thing we've been doing is just literally driving around looking for underused or abandoned buildings that are a little bit older but may, have to be long enough. So one thing to maybe consider is that old firehouse, making it the shooting range and making it maybe an opportunity for an archery club to put in a range. It's a perfect location for tournaments because you've got dining and it's right downtown. It's, you're not gonna have the traffic flow problems you would with fire trucks trying to come out of there. That's always a disaster. And it's long enough, it would actually work and it would benefit Lander County. The other option would be to consider, when you have this committee that was recommended, putting a shooting range in, and then maybe an archery range too, because it's just something we need to look at what's best for the overall community growth versus me and the club coming back a year from now, and then we're looking at a place, looking at a building, retrofitting. Let's see if we can make this all work together. Just planting that seed, because if that downtown area's
unused, or the fire station's great, but it's underused, it's only used when there's an emergency, then consider making it multiple use, like Aaron had talked about. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
I have two comments. One is I would just caution with the committee to make sure that everybody follows open meeting laws, because I think oftentimes committees forget that they fall under that requirement. And if you can ever just combine that into your meetings that you already have, it might be beneficial, and it saves that burden of the open meeting law that sometimes gets overlooked in committees. And then second, I just want to thank Aaron for going through and giving us all three options, giving us the bottom of the road and the top of the road, because that's a ton of work for him. And it's something good for the community to know that we aren't always just choosing top of the line stuff. I want the commission and the community to be able to choose what they want. If they want the stick built, if they want the concrete structure, and Aaron bringing them prices together, that's a big deal. So thank you.
I had a question, Bert. Our committee would just be a committee we appoint within the fire department. It's not gonna be a county committee like, they have various ones around.
Yeah, it wouldn't, it doesn't, they don't distinguish, so you still have to follow the open meeting law. Post
Okay.
your agenda and follow, so sometimes it's more burdensome, just cautioning you.
Right, so just do it within our usual business meeting or something?
Yeah, you could just agendize it as on your fire meetings
Okay.
and just operate through there, and it would save you the extra steps.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
I want to comment off of Bert. Yes, thank you for the presentation, because we asked for that the last time, so thanks, Aaron. You bet. Totally supportive of the fire station. If it we brought up in the committee to say, is this enough funding? That it is. But I want to keep my opinion. My opinion stands is I'm here for I want Battle Mountain to have a beautiful fire station, but I still don't see. We have 14 units or 16 units? 14. So putting 4 units in and we still run around town to get the rest, or however that all works, I don't understand it, so I don't want to criticize it. But it seems like it takes away from it. If we can generate money on the police academy and stuff like that, and save the, what was it, 75,000? Is what do we pay first to send somebody to police academy? What did you tell me that day? Was it?
It was in that area, I believe.
So with that, we save that, and then if we open this up, we can generate some revenue back, right? Because we would open it up to other counties to send theirs as well. So there's money to be made that comes into in the thought process for this facility. But like I said, I'm solid on full support. I like the drawings of it, but I dislike the fact that it's 4 units in a fire station. We can use the older buildings and so on and so forth, but I'd rather see 9 bays and maybe everything on the second story. To me, the museum ain't beneficial to me when we could if it's big enough to put 2 more trucks in. That's my opinion.
Ron, maybe you can clarify all the vehicles we do have, because I know we have a couple out at the airport, which that's where we want to leave them in case we have an issue at the airport, right?
Well, yeah, so we have essentially 9 units is what we have right here in town. We do have a unit stationed out at one of the ranches. We have another unit that'll be stationed out at Philippines. But then at the airport, because we are also in charge of the airport, we do have a couple. We have a tanker out there at this point, 1 ladder truck. We have a structure truck, that old FMC we got out of Austin that they were going to give away. We got that. And then we have another unit out there that is strictly, it has foam, Ansel, and water on it. It come out of Carson City. These are all little units. But to help out a little bit here, when this originally first started, we was looking at just doing the fire station down there. And this started, 2 or 3 years ago. And Aaron went down, he checked everything out. We had a plan. We figured there was structural issues that Aaron found at that point. So then we were looking at, okay, we're gonna have to pretty much gut that building to fix the structural side of it. So then we had to have a place to put our equipment, because this isn't gonna be done just in the summer months. So we discussed, and at one point in time, we had a building that we would call it temporary, if you like. We were gonna install that over at the county road and bridge. It would be like one of them buildings they had at the fairgrounds in Winnemucca, that plastic looking thing. We were gonna do that, store everything in there, and then when we got done, Road and Bridge would take that building and do what they wanted. Well, in the meantime, we had COVID, we had the prices of everything going up. The search and rescue was looking for some stuff. We were looking for a place as a sheriff's department to put the virtual machine. So we were looking at 2 or 3 different buildings. Aaron come up and said, okay, why don't we just incorporate some of this and put like a little substation here that would incorporate all of this stuff combined, while that would give us a place to put several units while they're reconstruction that. So in the wintertime, we would have 4 units, or 5 possibly, loaded with water right here. The others would be located probably at Road and Bridge or somewhere to where there was easily accessible, hit the water, and we could strike this. So originally, that was like a substation. And it was taking 3 different outfits and combining it, is what it was, while they redid the other one. See where I'm going with that?
You mean the existing fire?
The existing fire hall, we'd have a place over here for this equipment, even though it was on this side of the freeway or whatever. We would have a place for this equipment to be ready at a moment's notice. But then when everything got done, when we refurbished the other fire hall, now we could put our equipment in there, give us a little more room. We could have equipment on this side. So we would be covered on each side of the highway. And then that would take care of the facility, the training for sheriff, fire, and search and rescue. The repelling tower, the burn tower could be used for repelling. It all combined into one. So this is how this all came about.
I'm fine
And I
with
think
it.
Aaron did a fantastic job as far as the, cause Rick and I had 1 or 2 meetings with him and Bert to where we helped kind of design this a little bit. And, the fire chief at that point, he did like that museum, cause we have the old 35 Ford. Not a lot of, we got a lot of history stuff, but it's pictures and stuff like that, you know. So that's where we were talking, we could condense some of that because the room that we were looking at, but it's a multiple use building, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But not a big one, Mike, like you're talking, to where we could have just one big fire hall with all of that.
All I want is, don't piece it. In my opinion, don't piece it. And we want to add here and add there for every budget meeting from here, you know, every year going forward, well, we miss this piece. I see that too much in private industry.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if we got it and we need to look at it, make it the best use, the best use. You know, what works, and also if it grows, and we do have room for growth, but, you know, I think we need to look at it now that, I think there's a lot of pieces of it that are great, but now it's to put it all together. This one's starting it. Like I said, I don't know about all the engines, if we have them and they're staged here, staged there, that's where they need to be, that's fine. Let's make sure every piece and every, you know, that if we need more than 4 bays, I think then we need to look at it for more bays and make it what it is.
Well, and-
It is a fire department.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but, like I said, this was strictly designed as a substation. You know, and the comment was made at one point that Lander County or Battle Mountain is growing this way, and they are. I mean, that's obvious, but at this point, we only have, out of 20 firemen, we only have 4, maybe 5 of us that are on this side of the freeway. The others are on that side. So with this, if they decide to go with this, and there's a lot of things we can change, you know, he brought up a lot of stuff. There's some stuff we don't automatically need right now, but maybe at a later date, like they're talking about building the burn tower out at the dump or over at the sewer plant, somewhere else to where it's not gonna smoke everything up. Perfect. I didn't think about that. But then they're talking about a gun range. You know, maybe if you do that, then put the gun range where the smoke tower's at. It gives us more room for our equipment here, but it's accessible. So with what Aaron showed you, there's 3 or 4 different options. We can still change some of that around and make it more usable. But with something as big, Mike, like you're saying, we don't have the room over here to do that. We would have to relocate somewhere else.
Aaron, in your design on the shooting range, were you intending it to be used for professional, like our first responders, or were you thinking more of a public base, like anybody could use it.
Boy,
It's for here.
yeah, it was strictly
That's
originally
what I
for
was-
the
Right,
front,
yes,
sure.
exactly, so. yeah.
And the reason that got bought up, Brian, in the last 10, 15 years, we've been looking for a hot house, shoot house, because of the training. Granted, the virtual that you see is great. That sucker is absolutely fantastic, but they still need hands-on. And we've been looking at different places. There's a couple of members of our department that has been researching that at the dump in different areas. Sure, that's a great want, but that could come down the road if we.
Okay, so I think at this point, we need to determine amount, because we're dealing with our budget. So, just to make sure I understand your figures, Aaron, so like on option 3, which basically is the whole thing, right? So we're looking, if we decided to go concrete, brick, we'd be looking at 5 million, is that right?
So let's go, bear with me, I'm getting to that estimate. So yeah, option 3, if you did like a CMU structure like this, like we could save money and do like a split face CMU where the outside is already textured, so you don't have to do a masonry approach to the outside, that finished grade. So yeah, structure alone at $310 a square, 5 million for that facility at that square footage.
So where I'm going with this, right now, we have potentially budgeted $6,851,250, right? So, would that be an amount that we could feel safe with, that if, once the committee gets back, everybody can agree this is what we want, that's gonna be enough money to build the project?
So that's where we definitely want to caution you, because I think the commission needs to give some sort of direction as to like what your expectations are for a structure, and then we can give you better estimates for the total site impact, because underground utilities and the square footage of this facility triggers so many different things, like as an example, fire suppression. Do we even have that fire capability with our mainline system, which I'm fairly certain we do. So there's some underground and some parking and some roadway access things that can really push to your budget. Without a contingency on top of that, like I said, typically you'd have a 10 to 25% contingency fund on top of this, plus your site improvements. So to answer your question, your current budget allocation is probably not sufficient to achieve that option.
Now, would it be if we decided to do the steel structure instead of the masonry, because?
Right.
Right?
Right,
That
exactly.
would probably realistic?
Probably. And I do like steel structures. I think it would be a fitting approach because of the large spans that we're trying to achieve on this building. I think that in all reality, the 2-story component would probably be best suited with some sort of CMU or concrete structure. We've been playing around with some different CMU designs or ICF designs that might be a little cost conducive, and we can trim some of these down. So I don't think that a 2-story structure would be best suited for steel, just to kind of answer your question.
Okay, so not best suited for steel.
No, because, you know, when you have bunkhouses and things like that, the steel, they leak air. They're not very good insulated, even though if you do pack that insulation, it's metal siding sometimes, and even the roof lines, it's not an HVAC conducive structure, whereas a concrete or CMU, my R value is so much more better with those walls.
So we could have a hybrid system.
I think so,
Yeah.
would probably be the approach.
Okay. All right, so I guess,
So commissioners, why we put this back mainly is because Commissioner Chop had said, hey, don't you guys come back to us asking for more money.
right.
And the chance of us coming back asking for more money, the way it stands, is really strong.
I agree.
Um,
And we're not considering any landscaping, things
Or-
like that.
yeah, or paving, there's a lot of other things that come with this, and I don't think that it's unreasonable to say that that starts to touch a $10 million price tag if you put all of this together for a finished product with the landscaping, with the paving, with the underground utilities and everything else to come together. So that's why it's sitting back in front of you.
And on top of that, these costs are per square foot of the structure. If I was to give you a cost per square foot of all the items that are needed for the occupancy of that structure, it could be upwards of $800 to $1,200 a square. So as an example, a structure is the walls, the lights, maybe some wall decor, right? But in terms of like the desks, those types of things are not included in this estimate. And that's where when you start to do the actual accessories to the building, your prices increase. So that's where we got to keep in mind what this budget is outlining in relation to maybe your end goal expectations, which is, you know, I want all the desks furnished, I want the bunk rooms with beds, TVs, who knows what you want in there, those things can expel that budget. So we are very in the preliminary phases of this, and so Bert's exactly right. I think you're inching, if you were looking at option 3, to do the site properly with landscaping, you're inching over 10 million for sure.
Okay, any questions? Public have any questions, comments?
So with coming up on budget and everything, we've got to kind of have an idea where we're going and where the money, if we want to add to this, correct? So we're probably too late to come up with a little bit more of get together and finalize these and see these are the 2 options. That this is somewhat an estimate of the costs.
So I think, and as what I had kind of pictured for this is, I know this isn't a 1-year project. When we kick this off, it will kick into the following year. So we're gonna have to roll a portion of this budget over either way. But I don't want to go into it with you guys thinking that the 10 million or 6 million will cover it, and then we're back here and we're at 10, and you guys are kicking us when we ask for it the following year. So I do think that it'll roll into the following budget year, but it's just something that everybody needs to be well aware of what the end game is.
So if we have an earthquake or whatever, which type of building would be the most able to take care of it? Or,
To be able to handle it best?
yeah.
It's a good question. I think my concrete professor would argue that the concrete would handle it best, but I would believe that the steel structure would handle it best. And you do want to think of these facilities as your type 5 facility, where it is in an emergency, anyone can go there for shelter. And so it would be designed to meet those requirements. But you can achieve those requirements on any 3 of those structures, though you can achieve that any which way, but I would say steel.
Because we have had a few small earthquakes here.
Sure. I don't think concrete or CMU respond well to movement, so when you get lateral movement in a concrete structure, it creates stress cracks, and those are never good in my opinion.
So what direction you guys wanna go? Do we wanna set an amount of 10 million? And then,
I'd say with escalating costs, that would probably be, we have it to do. Then move this 6.8 million to 10.
And once we get a better design, we could then come back to you with the final, and that's just it, it's like when you have no design, we're shooting off many hips, I'll be straight with you. And that's where I would typically put a 25% contingency just on the building. But maybe if you can give some direction, then the design teams can start to actually create that, and we can get our hands around, like, once we have a 30% design, we can come back to you with that 30% cost estimate, so you can make a better valid decision, so you're not blown away. If we're marching down a $15 million mark, it's like, well, we gotta taper this way back. So maybe that's the approach, is at a 30% design level, come back with some better estimates.
And I think that 10 million is a pretty solid number to where you can mix the 2 structures from steel to CMU and kind of meet in the middle there to provide both, kind of still shooting from the hip, but it also gets us through the budget, and we won't be back asking for any more money. We'll be back asking for how you guys want to modify it to fit.
Yeah.
I think if that's.
Makes sense.
okay, so do we have just, I guess it'd be a motion for modification of the budgetary line item?
Well, I'll make a motion to modify it to 10 million, and we'll go from there.
For fiscal year 24, right? We're not modifying the current budget, we're modifying the budget for next year.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we have included the police training and living quarters.
Yes.
That's all part,
That's
okay.
part of it. So you guys can do your work as your board and.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, we'll get back to you with our thoughts. We want to look at other fire departments around the state and see what they have, get some good ideas, see what works, what doesn't, that kind of thing. Because we're gonna have this for long past our lifetimes.
Right.
I'll speak for myself, so I like to get it done right.
Okay.
We're happy to meet with you more than anything, if you haven't come to your meetings.
Okay, thank you. Got a business card, I'll take it.
All right, we'll move on to item 7, for discussion possible action.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You bet, thank you guys. To approve, disapprove the Battle Mountain Construct County Hangars design only in the amount of $117,334 for the fiscal year 23-24 final budget.
Lake and Sullivan, for the record, this was on the budget workshop and it was not approved, but now that David's came and gave you the information on the BIL funding, we thought we'd put it back on and see if you guys want to move forward with it.
So it's let me see, $117,000, which our match portion is the $707,334.
Yes, and this is for the design only. Once he gets the design, he will bring it back for approval before he puts in for the funding. So if you don't like the price of it or whatever, then you guys don't have to approve it at that time.
Any questions?
Real quick, David Meyer, JUB for the record. As always, I'll come back in front of you before we move forward with any grant application as well. And so the purpose here is just the budgetary line item at this time.
All right.
Thanks.
We have a motion?
And we're putting in for what, are you asking for that entire amount
Yeah, we always budget to the full amount and because we front the costs if we do move forward and then we get reimbursed by the.
Okay.
Yeah, and the amount is funky because it's leveraging the 110,000 and then the 7,000 and changes the match as well, county match.
A motion to approve Battle Mountain Construct County Hangars in the design only in the amount of $117,334 for the fiscal year 23-24 final budget.
Okay, Mike's made a motion, we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. 8, for discussion possible action to approve, disapprove current Lander County grant packet and guidelines as presented, or to make modifications. So we asked for it to be kind of broken down.
So I included the breakdown on the community base and the versus events, going all the way back to FY19, and then also the totals by fund. And then I included the final numbers for the grants from budget workshop that were approved. Minus the 2 for conservation district that you guys just approved, so those will go back on there.
Anybody have any questions on this?
Thank you for your work.
Huh?
You had asked last meeting about separating out the different funds,
Which we
Yes.
did, she did right here.
which that,
That's why,
that's what that is.
yeah, I wanted to show you guys about the, roughly what the averages
Okay.
by fund has been for each year.
Okay.
And then what happens with the money that we authorize for LIDA?
So we've left that grant there. I'm not sure what building and planning's department, like what their plan is with that. If they choose not to do anything with that, then it just
Well,
won't be used.
there's no more committee, is there?
No, we're leaving them funds because the building department may take over some of them projects and proceed forward. We haven't met yet. I think we were planning on maybe next Tuesday, I think. Is that what the latest email? To meet and discuss that a little bit further.
Okay. Thank you.
And then the grant packet itself, on the guidelines, I did add number 8, which we talked about last meeting. It's highlighted in yellow. And then on the actual questionnaire, on number 5, I added a line to that one as well.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I like how you put it together, like, and this would be great, I think, for every budgetary process, going forward, that we have this, so we can see this is what we gave you last year based on our guidelines.
Okay.
It needs to be a lesser amount that's asked for. What have you done to somewhat self-sustain your organization and your events? But yes, I like this a lot, so thank you for your hard work on this.
Thank you very
You're welcome.
much.
So are there any questions on the board, public?
So they've already had to apply for next year by February 9th.
Yes, that's what you guys approved at the budget workshop.
Great work.
We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the current Lander County grant packet and the guidelines as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And a second, all in favor say aye. Okay, thank you, Lakin.
You're welcome. So my only question, sorry, on the grant guidelines, do you want the 100,000 to be by fund, or do you want it to be
No, it needs
all
to be,
together?
yeah, it's not an achievable thing. It needs to be, well, we need to look at this again here real quick. So on the events, it's 100,000's way too much. I mean, if you look at how it's broken down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so basically we've got Austin Town down,
You know, it was a great theory.
yes. Yes, but now it's reality.
Yeah, in reality, we always seem to go over it, but I mean, we can still leave it, we can still, that's our goal, we kind of look for it. And if we make exceptions every year, then we make exceptions.
Yeah, I just need to know if you want to look at the 100,000 cap as a whole or by.
Not by
Fund.
event, no, as a whole. It was designed to be in total.
Yeah, because, I mean, just CCP fund, I mean, that's what really made 23, 24 shoot up, was that $1,650,000 for Austin,
Yeah.
water, or
For the
sorry, Kingston water,
yeah,
yes.
but that really isn't even counted in it when we look at it. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying,
that's
you
not
know,
what we consider grants per se.
And it's easy for this board because, you know, we have some back history, we know what we've done, but I'm thinking for future boards that we put some sort of guideline or policies in place that is easily followable, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like we don't want them to go down the same road that we had to go down. So it's like, what do you guys think would be, I mean, obviously, 100,000 is not gonna be okay for the CCP fund.
No, and that, I mean, that's not a typical situation. So if you guys aren't going to
So
call
when
that
we're
a
looking at
grant,
it, we're just
then
looking at like Austin Town, Battle Mountain Town, and Lander County.
yeah.
Like this year, we achieved it, we were under 100,000 for each one,
Yes.
right? But we overshot her if we were to compile them all and say it's 100,000 for all
Yes.
three. Yeah, so, I mean, 80, 70, 150, we're roughly 160 some $1,000, so.
Well, if you add back in the two for the conservation district that weren't approved, then
Oh.
we did go over on the general fund one.
Got you, yes. you're
But the sage grouse is 100,000 all by itself. So
right. What do you guys think? I mean, I mean, I see what Patsy's saying, but I'm just saying for a future board, I mean, if we could add some clarity to that policy, it might make it, you know, a little easier to follow.
I think like events is gonna be manageable, that's, I mean, looking at it, I mean, a $20,000 cap or $25,000 cap on the events would be easy to say, you know, and follow, cause that's, through me, I mean, that makes up for being new, and if we get new people, they're gonna have the same frustrations I did. Cause you get into the wells and that's like, well, you have to for the water district, you know, you're gonna approve it.
Do you have any suggestions, Lakin?
I would look at doing a cap altogether, but increasing it because I don't think 100,000 is going to be enough for all. It depends on if you want to look at it by fund or by community based and events.
Well, I think we should put an amount on events. We should have its own thing, right? It's like, yeah. So like, we were 22,000 this fiscal year coming up, right?
Mhm.
So do we wanna set a cap on that at, what do you guys think an amount would be? You can look at the past 5 years.
So if you did like on the, for the events, if you did a total of 25, does that sound reasonable for events?
Well, yeah, I mean,
And the only thing
But
why
it's-
I
it's-
think that, Brian, is because like when we had the kids that came in, we paid for all of those, at the rec center. I mean, we had all of those different things that come in, so you have just a little bit more expense when they're paying
Well,
for those.
some of those camps and things, those are
Uh-huh.
coming out of the rec center's budget
Okay.
directly.
Okay.
They're not,
Okay.
yeah.
so on the event, so if we set it at 25,000, but then with the understanding, because it's per our policy that they try to decrease the amount each
Mhm.
year, I would be fine with the 25,000 on the event.
Yeah.
You guys feel good about that?
I am.
Okay, and then we increase, so then, so those events are not part of what we have right now for the general fund, Austin or Battle Mountain Town, right? They're taken out of that amount on your spreadsheet? They're separate?
The
The
events come out of Austin and Battle Mountain Town based on where the event's at, so
Yes,
all
but what I'm
these are-
asking is on your total here for 23-24, you have events total, but is that figure also put into those figures, like 42,500?
yes, it's included in
It is
that.
included, so, okay, so, see, we're set at 100, sorry, there's 160, so if we set a cap on that at 200,000 between those three funds? You guys good with that? If we were to, because right now, we have 100,000 for those three funds, which obviously is not anything that we've achieved in the last, whatever's on the spreadsheet. I'm saying if we were to increase that cap to 200,000, not to go over, and that's basically all three funds taken into account.
But is that excluding like the Kingston Water and the?
Yes, that's,
And the conservation?
no,
Because-
conservation district is in that amount, right?
Yeah, it's not in these amounts because we didn't
Yeah.
approve them, but yes, it would increase the general fund's grant amount by 120,000 based on what you just approved for them.
Yeah, so I think 200,000 is a realistic amount, I do.
Do you think that's realistic for that? Cause that's kinda confusing to me, if you
So
have
200 just for the general fund?
No. Those, so basically, no, I'm saying all three. Because it, let me see here,
You
hold
only
on.
have 80,000 for the rest after you do the conservation, am I correct in that
Mhm.
thinking?
Yes, I see what you're saying right here. So I'm looking
Okay.
here, Lander County General Fund. So, 1, so 2.
You're at about 272, 280 with the two that were just approved total.
So if we set it at 300,000, the reason why I don't like to say this one can have 100,000, this one can have 100,000, this one can have 100,000, because obviously those two funds haven't ever spent that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I don't wanna put the message out there, hey, we're good up to 100,000. It's a total
Yes.
amount, so I guess 300,000 would probably be a more realistic number. What do you guys think? Okay,
So 300,000, that's including the 25,000 for events, right?
that's including it, yes.
Yes, okay.
And 300,000 includes the
Yes,
25?
yeah, because, yes.
Total is what I figured it at this year.
What's that?
We set, my numbers when I totaled it, we're at 385.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
all right, so we have our motion and then your question answered on that.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep, that's all I needed, I think.
Okay. We did take a vote on that one, right?
I don't know.
Mhm.
Sure we did, okay. Just wanna make sure.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we'll move into item 9. For discussion of possible action to approve, disapprove a natural resource officer to be funded in the county manager's department for fiscal year 23-24 final budget. So, I mean, we're dealing with natural resource issues all the time, and we had a conversation with Vincent with NACO, and NACO's looking at possibly starting like a committee to handle for natural resources, and so yeah, I think this merits some good discussion whether we need to bring a resource officer on into Lander County.
Did he give you any idea on the salary? Because I don't know where we came up.
No, we didn't talk anything about that.
Okay.
I
'cause-
just, he had just mentioned that, if we could get somebody from Lander County to sit on the resource side of things for NACO, and that's when I told him we had this item coming up on the agenda, we were looking at a potential resource person for Lander County.
Because I think it would depend on how much experience they have. If we were fortunate to give somebody that had really had experience, the 65 isn't gonna swing it.
No, and these numbers, these we gathered from Eureka and neighboring counties, like where they started and kind of how they started. Most of them started with a part-time that turned into a full-time. I think that it would be in our best interest just to start with the full-time.
So is Jake Tibbetts, is he an employee of Lander County, or is he a consultant too?
Eureka County, he's an employee of Eureka County.
Okay. Yeah, he's a dynamite guy, so.
He's so old.
And we just went with a number in the middle. We didn't go high or low. That's how we picked the 65.
I agree with Patsy. I think whatever person we do bring into that position, I think they definitely need to have I would think, some solid background in natural resources
And if that's true, I don't think 65 is gonna be high enough. I just don't. I mean,
no idea.
we need to advertise, and then say it's predicated upon experience.
But do we wanna set
We still have to have a
that
budget.
and go off, at least set the minimum of that, and then, what do you think about that? Liz, set the minimum of that, and then go.
Well, I would say for budget purposes, I would set it high, and then we can
Based on
advertise and do
qualifications.
it based off of experience.
Yeah,
And so
predicated
we
on
can have a
experience.
range when we do the hiring, but we need to have a budget.
Okay. Yes, Amy?
Just some things to consider when you're considering this position, because I'm speaking as a private citizen, but I sit on the Conservation Board and the PLUAC Board. And we need to coordinate, we need somebody who attends those meetings and helps us coordinate. For example, you're talking about the Conservation Board, and we want somebody who can look all over Lander County, come to us and say, these are the needs, this is where the noxious weeds, or this is where we need to look at some seeding, and give us the whole Lander County perspective, and even, designate this is the highest priority down to the lowest. So we get some coordination there. Also our grant management. And then, of course, on the PLUAC, JR's on that with me, we need someone who helps us understand the water issues, spearhead the water issues, the wild horse, which we talked about a few weeks ago. And then just working with the BLM, the NDOW. We work with all of these boards, but then we go back to life, right? And we need somebody who stays on top of these water issues. On even some of like the EPA versus West Virginia that the Supreme Court recently ruled on about a year ago, that has huge ramifications. And we need somebody who gets in and can lobby and coordinate legislative issues nationally and at the state level. So thinking about when you're putting together your salary range and your job description, yeah, you're probably gonna, a halftime maybe at 65,000 when you want them legislating in front of possibly Congress and the state legislature, and working with politicians at high levels to advocate for what's happening nationally and even locally with the wild horse issues and everything else. So, I'd love to see somebody who really has great connections and can do what's right for Lander County.
And Liz, when you said you went off of your request, did I hear that right, or was that?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So is that where you got these numbers?
Yes, starting at the base of where they started originally.
Oh, okay.
And then, and with all due respect to Amy's comments, this position would work for the county, not for the conservation district.
Correct,
So,
yeah.
so
Right,
it's,
help
so
coordinate.
that oftentimes gets confused with who's gonna be giving direction and how that works. Obviously, they would be, intertwined in all of that and then bring it back and report to this board, but I just wanna make sure that for the sake of this meeting, that we stay focused on who they would report to, and that'd be this board. And what their responsibilities would be.
How much, do we know how much Dick Tibbet makes? What's
I
the-
don't off the top of my head, no.
Well, of course, that's so hard because he's got so many years' experience and
Yes,
he's
no,
had so many
exactly.
raises. But I don't know, what do you think about something like 95?
95?
But
Based
like,
on
it's
qualifications.
predicated
At
on
the high.
experience.
On the
Yeah,
high
based,
end.
based on qualifications and experience, yeah.
Okay.
Getting a qualified applicant's gonna be challenging in itself. This isn't something where there's a lot of people that have a ton of experience, and those who do go to work in places like the mines and other places where they can make real money. So I don't mean that in a bad way. We have a great benefit package. We have a lot of things that we can offer, but this is not an area where you knock on doors, people have a lot of experience.
Well, do you think 95 is too low?
We can bring that back in front of the commission if we get somebody that's that qualified, but I don't.
Okay.
I don't, that's a lot of money.
Okay, well,
benefit package, that's a lot of money.
Okay.
all right, I'll make a motion that we approve a natural resource officer to be funded in the county manager's department for fiscal year 23-24 and to start with a base salary of 95 based on qualifications and experience.
Okay, Patrick made a motion, Kathy has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We'll move on to item 11. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove allowing Lander County retiree employees to purchase health insurance at their own cost up to age 65, which is compliant with NRS 287.023.
Okay, so it was brought to my attention when the meeting started of another statute.
She usually stays over there. We can ask her. I don't know, we can ask her. Liz, are you gonna sit here or there?
I'm good. So there's some concerns with the statute. If you choose the option of the statute that's on the top, which is what is on the agenda, there are concerns with the attached statute that would come into play into the county as well. I did reach out to Anthems in regards to rates and fees. We do not have any fees like we do pay to Cobra, but the rates will potentially increase. And Tim's got some other information he can go through with you as well.
All right, Tim, floor is yours.
Tim Holland with LP Insurance Services. So the question brought to me originally and why I'm here has kind of grown a little bit. I want that to be known. I also want this small thing. I am not an expert in Nevada PERS. I am an expert from when you were born until you retire. And this is a whole different animal. It changes all the time. It seems that I think in 1985 you had a thing called cradle to grave insurance, meaning that if you put your time in, you had 100% insurance the rest of your life, and now that has completely changed and been taken away. So the little bit of data I put together, and it is my job to educate. It is not my job to enforce, and I just want that to be known. The little bit of research I did, there's 17 counties in Nevada. There's 124 cities and towns. There's 135 that belong to Pool Pact. There's 98 entities, counties, public agencies involved in Nevada PERS, and it is remarkable how many interpretations there are of this law. And whether it's done to suit a city, to suit a county, to suit whatever, there is not a uniform place here. So it's just, how can I help the commissioners in this area?
Well, I guess number one would be, I want to make sure that if we were to elect to do something like this, that it's, what's the burden that it's going to put on taxpayers? Because ultimately it's taxpayers that are paying for this.
Okay.
So there was just some discussion that it would increase the workload of staff because they have to track and report. And then what the other question was, or concern was, what does it do to our rates? You know, this person that's retired that buys their own insurance, but what does it do on the back end of a race? I mean, how does it increase it?
So number one is a higher burden because they are not going to stay in Battle Mountain once they retire. They'll come back, but generally they're going to move elsewhere, and they're going to spend time with family, and you're going to be going to Florida, New York, Maine. It's a lot of tracking, and making sure that they pay on time and that. And the second part is a companies can say it has the potential for a cost, and that's an absolute, because in the old days of underwriting, you know, you'd have a health questionnaire and say height weight ratio, do good, smoker, 37-year-old with diabetes, and just you have this balance. Now they cannot do that. You're with pre-existing conditions and all the Affordable Care Act rules, your underwriting comes down to utilization, but it also comes down to age and gender. So as you add a higher age to your demographic, then your cost will go up.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that I do the potential, the disclosure, the potential benefit when I brought it as a retiree. So, and I won't be making any comments or asking any questions. I just want to make sure that I do that. And I did do an opinion to the ethics board from our last meeting to make sure what, if anything, I did step in or on. But, so if people wonder why I'm not making any comments, I'm just abstaining from anything and everything that has to do with this
Okay.
because of my potential benefit.
Thank you for that disclosure.
And Commissioner Sparks, I think you said it earlier, you want to make sure that commissioners 20 years from now are saddled with what you did now. I think that's where your mind needs to be, because you might have 30 retirees in 20 years.
Right.
You might have 50 retirees in 25 years. And with this ability for somebody to come back on the plan on even numbered years in January, it's definitely something to be considered.
And then if the statute that I'm reading or looking at here, this would basically, and we don't, I'm not an attorney, I would know, I asked Bill, but if I'm reading this right, it's like, so if we have a county employee who expires, then is potential for their family to continue on with insurance? Is that what the statute's saying?
Surviving spouse.
Wow. Okay.
And I think I asked if it might be smart to reach out to some other counties that have had this, because as the PEB plan gets worse and worse and worse, we see more employees coming on their old sponsored plans.
Mm-hmm.
And I did reach out to Elko and Winnemucca, and they do not add this option. They have they denied it.
And regarding this, this new one she just passed out, we have the opinion from our previous public defender.
Yes.
Ted Herrera has his opinion when it was brought up before, not quite in the same way, but a little
Right.
bit different. But at least he did the opinion on it, so that we have the choice of whether we go for it or we don't. We offer it or not.
Yeah, exactly, it's our
Yeah,
choice.
Right. And I know people that haven't retired strictly because of their health insurance. So you keep working, and that's an option, like I mentioned before, that we all make. You know, sometimes we work for different companies we don't even want to, because insurance is so important. But I think those are all things when you're a county employee that you have to take in consideration before you retire. Are you ready? And you're gonna lose your health insurance. If you're uninsured, you can take COBRA. Most people don't take COBRA if they can buy an individual plan by themselves, because it's so much less expensive. Isn't as inclusive, but they get by. That's the whole point. They sometimes take a higher deductible, and the different plans, the ones that they can fund and stuff. So I don't think it's our responsibility to continue after they retire. I really think that we're going to have a lot of uninsurable people, and and I asked him. I said, "What does the company do? Will they honor that?" And he said, "Absolutely. Your premium will reflect it, but absolutely, we'll do what you want." So I went, "Golly, what if we are doing? I mean, as this grows and grows and grows, we set a precedent. We could have 50 people, 100 people retired,
Well,
and
yeah.
look what we're doing. I mean, boy, going out for new insurance, and sometimes when the anniversary date comes up, who's gonna look at us with 100 old people? I don't know, and uninsurable people. They know that that's true if they're still on a plan very often, so it's scary. I think it sets quite a precedent with a lot of concerns.
And with the tracking on the billing and that, I did reach out to PERS. If they are collecting a PERS check, PERS will pull the money from them and send it directly to us. But if they're not collecting a PERS check, then we would have to bill them and recoup that money.
Okay. Well, in most cases, wouldn't they draw a first check?
It just depends on their age.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Public? Yes.
So, if any of you don't know who I am, my name is Michelle Young. I retired from the Sheriff's Department on December 31st, 2019, and I am in the PERS system. Due to the employees contract of the Sheriff's Department, I was able to keep my county insurance, whatever the contract read at whatever the price, whatever. I got 2 years and about 4 months of that, which would have been March-ish of 2022. And at that time when it rained out, I had some conversations with Liz. I went into the, what you guys call the COBRA plan of that. And just so you know, what the county was paying for me in February of 2022, let's say that, is exactly the same amount that I pay in the COBRA plan. So it did not go up by 50% like everybody thinks COBRA is way so expensive. It did not go up. Now, that's not the only problem I had with that. So I get that for 18 months. So I have that until October of this year, and then I have to go looking for insurance. Okay, so I talked to Tim right after I started the COBRA plan, going, where do I go when this happens? And I'm not the only, well, I might be the only one, but I'm sure I'm not the only one. So when that runs out, I have options. I can go looking for private insurance, or I can get into the Nevada Health Link exchange marketplace, or whatever the hell it's called. So, and that is a whole ball of worms on its own. Just so you guys know, if you have not done that research, it is not easy to navigate that site, nor is it cost effective for a retired person. I'll take this for a second. So I asked my tax guy, if I did this, where would that go? So my husband is disabled. I'm on PERS, he's on Social Security Disability, and according to the tax guy, if you have an increase of, let's say, $5,000 in a year, if it is more than that of your 3% cost of living or whatever disability gets, then there's the possibility that you owe back to whoever manages that marketplace however much money, because you made more of an increase in a year than what they allow. So in the PERS system, that's entirely possible for one of us. As you hit that 4th year, 5th year, 6th year, 7th year, or whatever in that system, and I have, I don't know, 7 years or something until I'm eligible for Medicaid, if Mike and I go over that, then there's that possibility that I have to pay back a whole bunch of money into this marketplace exchange thing or whatever, and I have no idea how that works. This is just what my tax guy told me. So that may not be cost effective for a retiree. You only get so much money, and you're paying housing and cost of living and a car payment and all this kind of stuff, and you're at this debt to income ratio, and then something happens with that you weren't expecting, and you have to pay all this money back, then what happens to you? So that's a concern for me right now that I'm trying to figure out. So Tim gave me the phone number of a guy in Reno, and I called and talked to him, and he does private insurance, but the problem with that is he's not licensed for Lander County. He's licensed for Washoe County and Story County, so he was no help to me at all. His advice and Tim's advice to me was to get into the marketplace, because you don't have to worry about pre-existing conditions, you don't have to do this, you don't have to that, just get into that. So in the research in the marketplace, if none of you younger people have been in there, it is crappy insurance for high costs and extremely outrageous deductibles. So me at this point, I'm not sure that that's my best option. And I have pre-existing conditions, not that they changed my insurance for you guys, because they're no different than when I worked for the Sheriff's Department when I retired 5 years ago. Nothing has changed. But I have to look at that whole entire picture, right? So then the conversation comes in with COBRA. It's managed by a company called WageWorks. When I finished with the county's part of that, Liz gave me the paperwork to get involved with them. So you have to get online. So I got online, I did it all. They said they accepted me. They started taking money out of my bank account, which was the same premium that I have always paid. So I'm paying for insurance, right? And it's the same Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield as we have now. They sent me a new insurance card but all it did was update the stuff on the insurance card, and I think it changed the vision carrier from VPS to Blue Vision, something like that. So that changed. So then I go to the dentist here in town, and then I get this huge bill from the dentist's office telling me that I don't have insurance. So for 3 months, I'm paying out insurance to WageWorks, Cobra, whatever, and they say that I don't have insurance. Well, why am I paying you if I don't have insurance? So there's a little tiny phone number on the bottom of the 14th page of all of this stuff you get from them that you can talk to somebody at WageWorks, but there's never anybody there. So I called Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, talked to a lady named Monica. She was amazing for me. She did all of the work to get a hold of WageWorks to find out why I didn't have insurance. Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield sent it to WageWorks, but WageWorks said they never got it. So I'm paying them for this. I am going to the dentist, I'm going to doctor's appointments, I do whatever, to come to find out that they don't say I don't have insurance, right? So is that really an option for you guys when you retire? It's a pain in the hind end, and it was stressful. It was crazy because I'm going, okay, I'm paying you $780 a month, and you say I don't have insurance. And I'm trying to use my insurance, but you say I don't have insurance. So then what do you do? So you don't go to any doctors during that time period until you figure out what the hell's going on. So, that was crazy. So I just want to give you guys the benefit of my experience over the last 3 years with this and where my future is going with this. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them for you. I got a notice of this NRS in November of last year. So I took it to the district attorney's office and I asked them to review it and get back to me and let me know, how does the county feel about this? Is it an option for me? Is it something like this? And I never heard from them. So I don't know if it was because of the change in the DA or I don't know what happened now, but I never heard from them. So I do have a valid interest in this with the commissioners and the county as somebody that's retired, right? I'm probably kind of sure I'm the test case for the contract and the insurance and then going to Cobra and all of these kind of things that have happened. But if there's anything in my experience that I can answer questions for you guys, I'm happy to do that.
Well, then that's also going to be a question, because if you do approve this, the question is when do you make it effective? Because she is not a county employee anymore. There are 2 others that are still on the county plan. They are not county employees, but they're on the plan because they are utilizing the sick leave like she originally did. So that's gonna be a whole nother issue.
Would you mind if I address a couple of those things?
Absolutely.
So, Michelle was our test case. This was, it was tough, because I had really never had, an hour bank set up to where you could continue your insurance, just not usually done. If you're not W-2'd, you generally go into a COBRA. To address the COBRA's pool, as you kind of said it, a COBRA rate is the same as every county employee's rate plus 2%. A COBRA vendor has the ability to charge 2%. So anybody that goes on the COBRA goes into that would be the exact same rates. The only reason you would pay the government back would be if you and your husband were receiving a subsidy. So if you're having a subsidized price, that means it's based on income. Then if you make more money in the next year that you stated, then they rectify that. But if you pay full price for insurance and not receive a subsidy, you'll never owe anything back. And then finally, the guy who told you that he's only licensed in Washoe, that was horrible. I apologize you went through that, because when you get a Nevada, when you get an insurance license, you get it for the state of Nevada. So I will talk to Alex about that, because we refer all of the individual stuff to a guy named Alex Sampson at Health Benefits Associates, and they're in Fernley in Reno now, because they're literally the only ones who will write an individual insurance. Michelle is absolutely right. I don't know of anybody in Elko or the surrounding areas that will do individual insurance, because essentially you're doing it for free, and then something will come back, and the price that I give her is wrong. If she had a cigar 2 years ago and they find out it's now a smoking rate, it's just this horrible mess. So it's a challenge, because the doctors, the reimbursements for a physician are so low, they almost don't accept the patients.
So one last comment for you guys. Again, for those of you that don't know me, I did my entire career for the Sheriff's Department. I did 30 some odd years for them. I was instrumental in getting that section in the contract for insurance. So here's my plea to you guys. I did my career for this county. I served this county for 30 some odd years. Yes, I retired before I was 65 or whatever. I retired at what, 55, something like that. So, but I had done my 30 years for that. I'm not saying I feel that you owe me for that, but I would like you to recognize the fact of the people that do their entire careers for this. And if there's an opportunity for us to keep that insurance and keep it consistent and not have to fight with COBRA and not have to get into the marketplace and not have to try to find somebody that can write an insurance program in Lander County, much less, I don't know, Nevada, whatever, to try to do all of that, then I think it's worth your consideration. And again, I don't think it's just me. I think there's some other people in this room that are in the same boat that I'm in. I'm thinking that there's going to be some coming in the future. Maybe I'm the only one that feels strongly about this right now, but I mean, there's that possibility for other people. So I would like you to consider that. And then is there any questions I can answer based on my experience with this? I was eloquent, I gave you all the information. Perfect, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Michelle. So, I just want to put my 2 cents in, is like, I'm very empathetic for the whole insurance situation and how tough it is. But I have to keep looking at is, you know, I was elected to represent taxpayers, and again, I've made the statement in previous meetings, is I don't see how it becomes our responsibility to make this a burden for the taxpayer. The fact that this county and the pay that we give, PERS, insurance, Lander County is a dynamite place to work for. And we treat our employees well. Again, I'm empathetic, but I don't see how we have to where it's our decision, but I can see how it could in the future become a burden for taxpayers because it increases our rates. I mean, it's taxpayer dollars that pay for this thing. I have to say that, so. Robert?
Robert Quick, and I'm here to support this agenda item. I speak as a 28-year employee of this county, and I can appreciate everything you just said, Commissioner Sparks. However, what it looks like to employees that have been here as long as I have and others that longer is you treat employees well, and you absolutely do, but once you retire, so what? Not your problem anymore. And really, for somebody who has put that many years into the county's service and the service of the community, I think that the county should support those employees after they're not employees anymore. I'm not saying an employee that comes in that's here for a year that you should be paying for their insurance. I don't agree with that. I think as a longevity issue for the employees that have dedicated a lot of years to the county and the community, that becomes a benefit for those employees. And Michelle stole with her last 5 minutes of comments, stole everything else I wanted to say. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you,
The other question would be, we would have to make a definition of retirement. If you're retiring after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years. I know some of the really large corporations for years, like IBM and the real big ones that were self-insured, did the same thing. You retire after a certain time frame. If you give us 30 years, we'll continue to cover your insurance and allow you to stay on, blah, blah, blah. All those have changed. I mean, the price of health insurance has gone so sky high, and our medical bills have gone so sky high along with it, that they have had to curtail everything. And those are the really big guys, so I'm going, you said empathetic, and I think we all are. But like I said before, I know people that have worked in jobs. I mean, I too personally have worked a job many, many years longer than I really wanted to because of health situations. So we do make decisions to go back and work for somebody to get insurance and things that change our lifestyle. But that's a big concern when you retire, if you know you're going to leave your insurance, and if you know you're going to leave it and you still retire, you need to make the plans. And I'm sorry, but I don't think it should be our responsibility, you know, as they say, insurance is the cradle to grave. And can we take care of them when they're young and disabled and retired, and when they die? Are we covering all of that? It's a tough one, and like you said, we're responsible for a lot of costs that will be coming down the pike.
I have a question and a concern, possibly based on Tim's answer, is once we take these on, does our baseline go up based on some of the elements that come with the retirees? So if higher claims come in from the retirees, does our baseline insurance price continue to climb?
Depends on the claim. If it's a one-time claim, they'll apply that, but if it's an ongoing claim, there's a thing in our industry called a laser, which means they'll apply a certain amount of funding to that specific condition going on. And yes, county that I drove through earlier has about 1/3 of its population is retirees on its health plan, and it's a large cost factor when they factor in underwriting that demographic. So, yes.
Okay, because my comment to that is I agree with some of what Robert said, and at the same time, my concern is we have a hard time keeping employees anyway, and one of the big retention things that has helped us keep employees has been our insurance plan. And if we have to make the decision of paying for retirees' health insurance or continuing to provide the insurance that we provide to our employees currently, where they're adding their families for the $120 a month, that could have a huge factor on retention. And does that make sense?
No, I didn't get a full grasp of that.
Okay, so is what I'm saying is if we have $100 and we either pay that towards employees' dependent coverage, or we pay that towards retirees, and now the employee has to cover their dependent, that could cost the county in replacing these short-term employees that now can't afford to work for the county because they have to go get coverage elsewhere, so they go somewhere where they can make bigger money. And so I think that should be considered into some of this. I'm not speaking against it, and I'm for supporting those who, I'll be one of them, hopefully, well, if you guys keep me, that would retire early and be drawing on that and have that benefit. But I wouldn't want to do that at the expense of some young individual that's coming in that needs to figure out how to support their family. Most people, when they retire, they have their home paid for, they have their card paid for, they have other things, so they have that additional funding to go be able to afford some of these additional expenses. Whereas the young person coming in, I don't see how we can retain them if we took away our current insurance plan. And by additional draws on the insurance, from what I gather from Tim, our premiums could continue to climb to where we can no longer provide that plan to the families of our current employees, and that's the concern that I have. Does that?
So you're saying that with the escalating cost, that might be something we have to take off the table?
Correct.
Quick comment, follow up to what you're saying. Some people also look down the road at retirement and the way that they're treated once they've retired. So those are things you can use your own judgment on, but it's up to the commissioners. Those are factors as well. In other words, somebody will look at how these retirees have been treated and what the expectation of what they're going to get. And when they're making a decision whether or not to work for this county or maybe some other county or maybe some other line of work or a corporation, those are things which will figure into their decision. Just keep that in mind. I have no dog in this fight, I don't care, but I want to make sure that that perspective is thought of as well.
And I only bring this up because I know that specifically the sheriff's department, the retention there has just catapulted since we added the family benefit package. You know, I mean, and you see it throughout the county. And so it's just something that if them premiums adjust, it changes the dynamic considerably. So just food for thought.
Any more discussion, questions? Was there a motion? Any questions or comment from the public? Okay, so I'll ask, do we have a motion? Okay, there's no motion. So we'll move on to item 12. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tim. Not ready soon.
So building and planning, for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove a parcel map application for Andy and Cindy Jo Clark Family Trust. This is a division of 3-acre parcel into 3 1-acre parcels designated within a C2 zoning district located within a portion of section 24, township 32 north and range 44 east, APN 001-060-21. This was approved by the Planning Commission on April 19, 2023 with the following conditions. 1, parcel map to be recorded with the Lander County Recorder's Office within 2 years of approval by the Lander County Board of Commissioners, and 2, pavement of the remaining portion of Quail Run Lane prior to recordation of the parcel map.
Shelby Knapp, planning coordinator for the record. So just a minor clarification, the planning commission actually removed condition number 2 from their recommendation to the commissioners. We had some discussion at the meeting, and the county had agreed to do that paving. It didn't get approved for this year's budget, but we had already agreed, so the planning commission did remove that condition.
Okay. So item 2 of the conditions is removed.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions?
Do I need to say anything?
Huh?
You want me to say anything?
The floor is yours, Randy. If you want to say anything, you can.
My name is Randy Clark, and I'm, my wife and I own this property under Clark Family Trust. We started our little industrial park in south of town in 2007. I've seen all these committees in the county that was gonna be building industrial parks, and LEDA and all those, trying to bring business into town, and I've never seen anything ever done on anybody, on any of the county projects. So we started it. We spent a lot of money out there. We've spent a lot of, we've invested our own money. And right now we have 6 different tenants in our properties. And some of them are owners and some of them are leasers. We've a lot of businesses have started on our property and moved on, like Lynx, and there's been other ones that have started. We were like a seed business, and then as they grew, they moved off to different properties. But right now we have some people that a couple of our adjoining tenants want to expand a little bit, and that's what we're here for.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Thank you, Randy. We have any questions? If not, I'm ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the parcel map application for Randy and Cindy Jo Clark Family Trust. It is a 3-acre parcel. This is a division of the 3-acre parcel into 3 1-acre parcels designated with a C2 zoning district. It is located within the portion of section 24, township 32N, and range 44E, APN 001-060-21. This has been approved by the Planning Commission on April 19th and has the following condition. The parcel map is to be recorded with our recorder's office within 2 years of this date.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 We'll move into item 13. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove a parcel map application for the Clark Family Trust. This is a division of 4-acre parcel into 4 1-acre parcels designated within a M industrial zoning district located within a portion of section 24, township 32 north and range 44 east, APN 011-060-20. This was approved by the Planning Commission on April 19th, 2023 with the following conditions. 1, parcel map to be recorded with Lander County Recorder's Office within 2 years of approval by the Lander County Board of Commissioners. Just one condition. Okay?
Another thing about our industrial park, if anybody's been out there, we require anybody that's got anything that's unsightly, we have privacy fences along all the roadways. So, you drive by it, it does look respectable.
Yeah, I have to say, Randy, you've done a nice job over there, so. Okay, do we have a motion? Any questions?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the parcel map application for the Clark Family Trust. This is a division of a 4-acre parcel into 4 1-acre parcels designated within an M industrial zoning district, located within a portion of section 24, township 32N and range 44E, APN 011060-20, and this was approved by the Planning Commission on April 19th. The following condition, parcel map to be recorded within the Lander County Recorder's Office within 2 years of this date.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, Randy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Shelby. Okay, so we'll move on to item 14. Discussion of possible action regarding the Austin Community Center and Austin Clinic projects budget and how we would like to proceed on the plan for the grant funding we were awarded. The new budgeted amounts for fiscal year 23-24 are as follows. A, Austin Community Center, rollover $638,000 is grant funded in the amount of $938,000, or B, Austin Medical Clinic, fully granted, funded in the amount of $800,000.
Actually, there's a couple decisions that we need to make on this right off the bat. And one is because our loss of the youth center, the old youth center, we're sitting there with quite a mess. The original intention and the approval with the board before was always to redo that particular center and make it a community center. We had also looked to, we were told by Marshalls when they owned the property right next to it, which is a vacant lot, that we could use that. So we were planning on expanding a little bit with the community center and then using it for parking. Well, that was sold, and so we no longer have access to that. So now we have the old historical building, which is no more. So with that, would we like to at least restore a building? We can do it in the old style. Actually, Pete did a rendering of it. What if we just do like a false front? So it would just be looking like the historical front it was before, retaining our bell tower, putting that back up for the historic, and then you would look through like a window in the front and maybe see an old fire station inside. But the building itself would just be one straight building, just drywall and, their whatever they need on it to finish up the brick. But we wouldn't lose the historic building supposedly. It still would be there in town with the old fire station, or the fire, because it was the old fire station, and it would be there with maybe like I said, a fire truck and no access just to look through. That's one. So with that loss, I doubt very much whether we plan on rebuilding it to historical terms, and we're looking at a new place for our community center. Is that right? So we've got two things on here. I have no idea what that would be, just to do a false front like that and put the 3 square walls or whatever. I don't know. Would that fall into our 300,000 that we originally had, maybe?
So that's pretty multifaceted. It depends on what we get back from insurance, and then we also have to attach to the existing building that's there to that it was, or figure out how to delineate between the two buildings, because all them buildings, as you guys know, were all attached on the main street of Austin.
And it's our liability, right?
Yes, so there's going to be some cost associated with repairing the fallen structure. And what we're looking to do here is combine the grant funds that we have, which is the $800,000 and the $638,000, and build one facility with both grants to make a multi-faceted facility, and then possibly at a later date put one employee in there that can keep that place up and use it as a library, use it as a community center. So it's being used for multiple uses, and leverage as many of these funds as we can for the one structure. So that's kind of sidetracking off of it, sidestepping your question slightly. Yes, it's sidestepping your question a little, but that's what we're hoping to do here, and then with the insurance funds, revisit the Austin firehouse that collapsed and build a very non-usable, not, I don't wanna say non-inhabitable, but not something
Well,
to
it's
be
a
used on a
facade.
daily basis, a facade that,
It's just a
that
facade.
people walk by, they see it it makes the main street of Austin look pretty, but it's not necessarily, something that we're gonna dump this many funds into, especially considering like what you pointed out, the parking that we no longer, the property that we can't get and the other considerations, so.
So where is your thought that this would go?
We have a couple locations. I believe Mr. Martinez has up on the screen one place that we could put it up by the park where we could then leverage the swimming pool in the park as well. But there's a lot of dirt removal that has to take place there. Or we could put it next to the tennis court, possibly with some additional fill out there over the top of where the bandstand is currently. That's no longer used behind the old baseball backstop. But we were thinking somewhere in the general vicinity of the park because we have parking. We have the pool and everything else up there, so we can start to try to use everything at one time when they have big events in the community of Austin.
I'm wondering if maybe, and I think that's what we need to do with our new funds, is, because that was our concern, could we build a new building? What were the funds predicated on? As long as this is so close, and I know that we would have to do something like that for a new building, perhaps we could put that off and get the input of the Austin residents at our June meeting.
We certainly can.
It's only gonna be a month, and that way we can get input for them.
I think it's a good idea.
You bet.
I just need the budget amounts approved before that, but then you guys could look at what you wanna do.
Well, we can do whatever we need to do, we don't have to make any final decisions, I mean.
Yeah, and I think the budget amounts are
But like I said,
approved.
the decision is made, well, we will be making it today, that we will be building new, and then if we do the other, it will be a facade.
In the budget workshop, you guys approved the Austin Community Center at $500,000, the rollover. But after having a meeting with Bert and our grant writer and Aaron, we want to fund it at least to the full amount of the grant award, because we will have to pay for it up front and then get reimbursed. So that's why these two are in here. We did not have a budget for the Austin Medical Clinic.
Oh, I apologize. That's my mistake. Sorry, Lakin.
That's okay.
Well, I still think some of that should go, I don't know what insurance is gonna pay, and whether they'll let us do a facade if we don't rebuild the building, I'm not sure, we have to check. So I hate to take all of it when I think some of it was passed for that building, and we need to at least, I don't want another empty vacant lot right there in Austin, I wanna see it at least put back historically with our bell and things that meant a lot to the people there.
Well, I think for the grant purpose, we have to pick one location where we want to use it. I don't think we can use it.
Oh, I'm sure we'll be doing insurance in our own money for
Okay, I just wanted
the
to.
old one, yeah.
Yeah, and I think is what Lakin needs, now that I'm catching back up, is that we just need the approval for the $638,000 and the $800,000 to be budgeted, because it will be reimbursed through the grants. So it comes out of our pocket and then it gets sent back to us, but we just need that in the budget so then we can receive the money back. We can pick the location and how we join these together and then get the insurance after July 1 and after our meeting in Austin. But just for the purpose of this meeting, we just need the approval for these budget numbers.
Okay, what I'm saying is I really don't wanna take that 300,000 that we had for the old building and just put it into the new one. That doesn't leave us any funding for the old building.
And that's fine, you don't have to, this is, these are the grant numbers, these do not include what you guys budgeted aside from that.
Okay, cause it says rollover 638 is grant funded.
Is grant funded.
And the amount of 938, so I thought that included our three.
It does,
Right.
if
It
you.
does.
But we're approving the 638, right? Just the grant portion?
No, so I included the 638, but Holly thought that it's going to cost more than that to actually do the new build. So we added the 300 that you originally had.
Budgeted.
Yes, but we actually had 500 budgeted for the Austin Community Center. You guys increased that last year from 300 to 500.
So out of the
But I
500
just added an additional amount to total 938 for the Austin Community Center because that what we were awarded for the grant isn't gonna cover the cost.
That makes sense.
I see.
Yeah.
And then the Austin Medical Clinic.
Okay, so that
we
leaves me
received
200,000
$800,000.
for the old building.
Right?
Okay. Right, 200,000 for the old building, and you're moving over 3, and we had 5.
So this is just for for the grant
Right,
funded
but
stuff.
you-
I don't
okay.
have anything
But
for
you-
the
but you're-
old
The
site.
the 5 is my old, here's my
Yes.
new. Okay.
So you want both, is what you're saying?
You're moving 300,000 over here.
Right, doesn't it leave us 200,000
That leaves me
here?
2.
Or no?
No.
No,
This is the same one that you guys approved at budget workshop. You want me to have 2 projects for the Austin Community Center?
you look, well, right now, all we have is the old one.
I'm confused.
That's 500,000.
That got me confused.
Now we've got a grant for 6. Okay? And you wanna move my old money over to the new building. But I've got 5.
The project that we originally had budgeted for was for the whole grant process before the building fell down. So
Oh,
if
before
you
the
want,
building fell down.
if you want something different, you need to tell me now, because I only had 1 project for the Austin
Well,
Community
no,
Center.
I understand that, and this is why I said, when I first started, we have 2 decisions to make, and that's what we're making.
So basically, what we're saying, to get this project done, we're gonna need 938,000, which we'll pay up front, and then we'll be, it'll wash out 638 because it's grant, right?
Yeah, and these are just soft numbers based on our meetings.
Right.
If you guys put the 2 together, then I don't know what it's gonna cost. We don't have any hard numbers for that, so we just wanted to put something in the budget for both projects.
So I think I see what Patsy's saying. That money is for the new project wherever they're gonna put, correct? She's wanting funds to restore the other building.
So,
And I didn't know that was
Yes.
something we were.
No,
like,
this is new,
yeah.
of course you
Yes.
wouldn't know.
Yes.
I mean, I don't
That's
know
what I'm
whether the
saying. If
commission
you need
wants to do
another
it,
project,
I'm just saying,
Yes,
this is
so
what I
it
would
would be
like.
2 projects.
so maybe the thing to do would be the 1.4 million, which is the 638,000, and the 800,000 that we have awarded to us in grant money, we set aside for the new project, and the 300,000 that we had budgeted, we leave alone in the budget for the possible rehab of the old Austin Firehouse. Would that be?
That's what
But
she
she
wants.
says we have 5.
Yeah, it's 5.
Oh, there's 500. I thought we only had 300,000 in there.
Last budget year, we increased it.
Oh, we
So
increased it
in our current
200,000.
budget right now, it's 5, so we just
Okay.
rolled over the 5.
Okay. So we could go 1.6 into the new project and leave 300,000 for the
Yes.
rehab of the old
Yes.
firehouse. Would
I'm-
that be
So 2
acceptable?
projects.
Yep.
Okay, good. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aaron.
And we'll put it on the Austin agenda.
Yes. Okay, so then we'll move into correspondence, reports, future agenda items.
A couple of additional things. I have a thank you from Northern Nevada Aquatics. The county commission did sponsor them for the swim team, and they sent us a thank you. So I will scan this in and we'll shoot it over. You guys will see it in the newsletter as a thank you. And we also the county commission did get recognized at the local FFA for their contribution and everything that we've assisted them with. So that will also be recognized in the upcoming newsletter.
On the agenda, Liz, are we ready to put the hangar lease in?
I'm working with Michelle and we're getting numbers, so we will have it on the Austin meeting.
On the Austin one?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, Cole or somebody has to go down and measure because
Yes,
we're not
That's
charging
what
anything.
we're working on. We need the measurements before I can do the agreement to get the numbers.
Okay,
Yes,
so that'll be on Austin, okay.
yes.
I'll make sure.
Anything else, guys? Okay, nothing? Okay.
I have one more thing. the BLM would like to meet with us. I did send the public records request for the wild horse and burros and all things that have happened within Lander County, and they have reached out wanting to meet in person. Would the commission like just to proceed with the records request? And I mean, obviously, I would like to see what they have, but is there anybody on the commission that would like to sit down and meet with them with me as well? I'm not sure what the topic of conversation is going to be.
But I think we continue with our public records request, there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
You send out a date.
Okay. And the Fish and Wildlife is working on putting all them documents together, so
Okay.
they have responded.
Okay, so I'll move into public comment.
Aaron Martinez for the record, so I just wanted to let the commission know, Wednesday, May 17th, we'll be in Austin for the combined town hall and planning commission meeting where they'll be looking at two agenda items. One is a vacation of right-of-way request, and the second one is basically a parcel map application request. And then we'll be coming to the county commission the following June 8th, I believe, for your review and approval of those items from planning commission. If they accept them, they'd be coming to you for your decision on June 8th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, what time is that meeting, May 17th?
May 17th, 5 p.m. at the town hall location on 135 Court Street
Okay,
in
thank you.
Austin.
All right. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, is there a motion? Second? Motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you, guys.
Wishing you well.